Hello, everyone. Welcome. Super excited to have you for our Impro project session. How do you track your success part two? So if you didn't join our part one, no worries. You can always catch that recording, but this is part two of that. So we're actually going to go through an actual project, which I'm very excited for. We are going to wait just a couple of minutes to let a couple more participants in, a couple more registrants. But in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead, throw something in the chat. I don't know if we have any NFL fans or Taylor Swift fans. It seems like if you're going to be into the Super Bowl this year, but let us know who you're rooting for. Team KC, aka Team Taylor, the 49ers. I have a couple of friends that just watch it for the halftime show, which I'm definitely on board for, or it's just a regular day for me. I have another group of friends that tell me that, but let's see where you guys are at for that. Again, thank you so much. Oh, yes. One of our performance strategists, Vic, is from the area. So, of course, he's going to say, got some KCs. Wow, some KCs coming in hot. Halftime show. There we go. I'm actually pretty excited for the halftime show. So, that's kind of where my head's at. But let us know. Yes, 49ers. So yeah, it's gonna be a good event regardless, but I think we do have quite a number of our participants incoming again. We're super thankful that you guys were able to join us today. I think this is gonna be a great session that's gonna go through projects, a live walkthrough, really show you what a sample participant has done with Jordan. So what we're going to do now is let's go ahead and get started. As you guys might know, my name is Joel Pineda. I am the Customer Success Director here at Impro. I work with our clients, but also you guys, participants, to onboard you. We're also joined by Jordan Enns, who is our head of QA and Insights. He's also a performance strategist, so you might have already worked with him, seen him around kind of the app. He's going to take us through the actual app itself and show you what that project looks like. So we're super excited for that. Before we jump in, just a couple of things. One is a couple of housekeeping and agenda items I wanted to review with you guys. So again, we model these sessions after our 22 by 8 model. So if you are a participant, which you guys are, you know that model, 22 sessions of thought leadership, practical tools and tips, actually getting into the meat of the content, and then 8 minutes for questions, comments, feedback that you guys might have. You guys are more than welcome to voice your opinions. If you want to do that live, please just raise the hand. That way I know who's first, who's second, and I can rank order and make sure everyone gets a chance to talk. You guys have the ability to turn your mics on and off, same with video. So if you're comfortable doing that, by all means, go ahead and do that. And please share anything you're comfortable with, right? So we always stress confidentiality, making sure that this is a great experience for you. So if there's anything that's personal or more work related that you think is unrelated to the session, for sure, talk to your performance strategist and coach about that. But anything that you do want to share, by all means, we'd love to hear from you. We do have your performance strategist with us today as well, so they'd love to hear from you too. Okay, so if you weren't involved in our first project session, I wanted to give you a bit of a recap of what that was. So we do have a brand new project session tool. It allows you to really define and track the progress of different initiatives that you want to track, depending on the KPIs that you have. So that can be yearly KPIs, quarterly KPIs, really any metrics that you want to hone in on. And we try to break it down into three particular buckets that allows you to focus in on that particular project or initiative. So revenue increase, you can think of something like a sales team that brings in a big deal and again, increasing revenue for your company. So tracking that progression, that pipeline, working with your performance coach to actually realize that is one of the buckets. Cost savings. So for example, changing a vendor that might be similar quality, but at a lower cost is saving your company. So again, that could be one initiative if that's within your department. And cost avoidance. So that's any initiative that you take on today that's going to save you cost into the future. So for example, if you're in HR, something around talent retention, making sure that you don't have employee churn, saving you the cost of having to onboard and hire new people into the future. So again, just wanted to give you a bit of a landscape on the project tool. Again, available to all of our participants. You can reach out to your performance strategist to get that started. But without further ado, I did want to jump into the app with Jordan. So again, Jordan joining us, he was actually our first guest for our first Impro Talks webinar. So super excited to have our first returning guest. Jordan, talk to me about what you did with this example participant and how you got started working with a project within the app.
Yeah, thanks, Joel. It's good to see individuals that I've worked with and currently work with, and other faces here. We'll do something different today. So we're taking the actual app that we have, and as you know, it's confidential. We take privacy very seriously, but we do have a participant, Ethan, who has agreed to share a session that we did together. So we'll look at that, and I think we'll send a live message here on the call, and Ethan is here as well. So he has consented, of course, to sharing this. And Joel, to your point, we'll look at the project session. It may sound a little intimidating with a project, but really this is trying to hit what companies are looking for, what your team is looking for, saving costs, bringing efficiency, showing your value in the organization. And I think Impro is a great tool for that. So let me cue this up here. Let me get my app going, and I'll look at Ethan's story. And again, Ethan's on the call here, so he can maybe say hello in the chat there, Ethan, if you can hear me, and he'll give a little virtual wave. And most importantly, Joel, I'll ask you, can you see my screen?
I can see the screen that you're sharing, but I also just want to comment on your background. Great office background. Yes, and we have new offices. That's why I'm commenting. So very proud of that.
Yeah, that's I meant to bring that up. So that is I'll be honest, Joel, it's a virtual background, but we just opened our new office downtown Toronto. So more to come on that for those that are maybe in the city, but excited for that and excited to share this session. And for those that have worked with me or your strategists who might be on the line, your strategists, we also call or have called a coach before. This is something we're starting. So 2024, new year, new priorities. And we want to make this simple. We don't want to make it too daunting. So you hear KPIs, you hear targets, objectives. Just starting here very simple. So let's look what we did in this, and then we'll look at the actual project session. So you'll see on the left sessions that we have open. Ethan has a bit of a problem with procrastination, so we're working on that as well. But goals and targets. And just starting this here, to start the year, Ethan, what are your goals or targets? It could be for the year, it could be for the quarter. And Joel, you'll see what Ethan does here. So he lists 3 different targets that he has for his team. And Ethan's a internal participant that we have, so he works with people that we know as well. And can you see what he chose here to work on?
Yeah, so it looks like he's revamping our training program for new employees, improving employee satisfaction with instructional resources, and streamlining reports and other communication. So it seems like the third one's the one that he's going to pick. But what I love about Ethan's approach is he's adding a lot of different initiatives and potential projects, which I think is super important to keep in mind. Your performance coach is there to really weed out which projects and initiatives make the most sense. They can help you rank order saying, hey, this one's an easy win we can get this week. This one might be a quarter-long project. This one might be a year-long project, and we can really work on that kind of through different sessions. But think of the session and project session as a bit of a sandbox, right? You can really test out different ideas, and you have someone in your corner that can really feed off you, give you feedback, kind of get you in the right direction. So love the initial starting point of, hey, couple of thoughts, couple of projects I think I want to work on. What do you think, right? And getting some feedback, I think, is important.
Yeah, and he's comfortable with the first 2. Not every goal or KPI or target will you need help, especially not at a certain point. But let's look at where he could use some assistance and all the Impro resources that we have in our AI and our team behind us. So can we start there? Yes, we can. For those on the call, right, participants, you know what this banner means. So just getting started is a great achievement, right? You chose a goal to focus on. And Joel used the word sandbox. So let's look at how we can narrow in here and starting with broader questions. So we're going to streamline processes. I don't really know what this means at this stage, so I'm going to ask some more questions. Team inefficiency, we hear that a lot. Too many meetings, too many emails. We're not fast enough. Maybe he's overwhelmed. As we can all attest. I want to know, why do you want to do this? How would this benefit you, your team? So I'm asking why. And then why haven't you so far? So that's the second question. What's the obstacle that why you haven't done this or that you see coming up that could slow you down? And you can see
Mhm.
here his response, Joel. Projects are coming up. He's not getting all these new magical team members to help
Right.
him.
Yeah.
So he's knowing that he knows there's wasted time. Um, he needs to lower costs, even though that's not his primary goal. He knows
Mhm.
intuitively his company's looking for that. Um, but do you see what he says here? Where is he unclear, Joel?
So it seems like there's a lot of obstacles and a lot of information. So he's a bit unclear in terms of what the team at large, I think, thinks about this, right? Or where the gaps might be on from their perspective. And I really think that having that initial feedback session is super important, right? You need to kind of get validity in terms of, well, A, why are you doing this? And what do you think the value is actually going to come from from doing that project? And I definitely resonate with his earlier comment that, like, no, there's no cavalry coming to relieve me. Like, I feel like a lot of people are working with less and having to do more. So how do you work smarter? How do you utilize these tools to really set the focus on what you want to get done this year, kind of thing?
Yeah, and if there is that magic team coming, how do you use them? Because you have new people
Exactly.
coming in. How do you train them? How do you bring them in? So
Hmm.
processes, right? I think processes we can relate to. Again, trying to keep this simple and just narrow in more. So tough question, Joel. You mentioned the three categories, right?
Yes,
Cost avoidance,
yes.
cost reduction. How can you put a dollar figure? You save time. How does that save money for the company? That may not be his
Mhm.
primary role. Ethan's not in accounting, so
Yeah.
he needs to do a little bit of math. I nudge him, Ethan, don't procrastinate. Let's tackle this
Yeah.
because it's probably the most challenging thing to
Yes.
do.
A
And
100%. Yeah.
he's afraid, right? I'll be a bit off, but he'll talk to his team, as we said. So um, he's not sure if he can put a dollar figure on it, but he'll talk to his team. And here's some math, Joel. I know you and I are not math fans here, but he does some math. I just
Uh-huh.
said, look, how big is your team, right? How big is your
Uh-huh.
team? We can see here. How many hours could you save by improving your communication or technology processes? So maybe there's tools we can find later as well. But
Mhm.
how much do you see how much money that he thinks he could possibly save from improvement?
Yeah, well, again, I definitely didn't excel in math, but about 8,500 is what I'm seeing, I think they're at the bottom. And I think that's the biggest, at least from my perspective, when I'm thinking about projects, I'm thinking more, how can this make life easier for our employees, for me, for processes? But I think, like you said, the hard part is really getting the actual monetary value because that's how you prove the ROI on anything you do, right? Like imagine your manager's role or your director's role, like the people that you report to, like how can you come to them and say, "Hey, I got this great project initiative and it's going to save us X or it's going to bring in X," right? Like that's a direct value contribution. And again, performance strategies can help you get that number, ballpark number. We can tweak how clear that becomes, but just getting something on the page, I think is super important.
Yeah, good point. We can share some other um, general topics that are being worked on in the Impro ecosystem right now. Sales is the easiest one. Increase your sales. You can monetize that
Exactly.
simply. But people, how do you figure this out? You can ballpark numbers. You'll see once we're in the
Exactly.
project session. So we'll move there in a second. You can edit this.
Yeah.
So we're going to adjust as we go because there's a lot of factors that come in. But he did it. He got feedback. He put this together. I think that's an achievement that he can do here. We're going to fill in the gaps. And you can see my bolded question,
Hmm.
right? Many factors. We'll adapt, we'll adjust. Are you ready to open? Joel, is he ready?
Uh-oh, moment of truth. This is honestly one of those kind of pivotal, critical juncture moments where you just take that leap of faith, right? Where you're just like, you know what? I might not be sure on every single variable. I might not be sure on exactly what's the value that's going to contribute, but let's open a session, right? You always have the ability to close a session, close projects. You can open multiple projects. So just take that initial leap, say, hey, got an idea. Let's run with it. Let's see where it takes us.
Yeah. So uh, we're going to move into the project session. He's ready. Cost avoidance is what he's going to look for, right? Which is
Hmm.
avoiding costs that are going to be that you're going to incur. And he's looking at this first quarter, right? I think he said March
Right.
31st as the date. So um, you'll see the sessions on the left. So this is our goals and targets. We're basically going to close this one now.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing a 22-8 session. We do that sometimes so we can use
Mm-hmm.
focus and practice on some of these tasks. But do you see this box here at the top? You can see project session as well.
Yes. Yeah. The project session, exactly. Yeah. And that's actually a great point, Jordan, that you reference is, project doesn't have to consume everything you do with your performance coach in the app, right? We definitely still want to develop you as a person, as an employee, develop those skills, those habits that are really going to bolster and improve those projects. So it's a bit of a cycle, right? Projects can feed into better habits, better projects. You can become more efficient. So it's really a bit of an ecosystem of improvement that we're trying to develop.
Yeah, and when we say project, we don't necessarily, it doesn't have to be we think of project as something very boxed in. So this can be something more
Yes.
fluid, just something that you're working on, right? So a goal that you have. And we can track this. You look at the top, you can see the areas here.
Hmm.
And this was what Ethan, so I'll activate this. It's Ethan that fills it out. He typed this in here. So that gives him control over this rather than me leading it. And this is something that you've probably never seen before for participants on the call. Who started the session with the first message?
Yeah, it looks like Ethan did, which is very exciting. And I like how it at the very top it has the kind of the buckets, the metrics that you were dealing with. I'm just gonna go ahead and throw something in the chat, get people thinking about what bucket, what project you could potentially do. But I do like that he's taking that initiative to open that session and get started with you.
Yeah, so here we are. He's what's next. He wants to know how we go here, and you can see. Let's take the details. So we need those details to fill out the top. Again, Ethan can edit this later. We know the
Hmm.
end goal. We're going to work backwards and see what we can realistically do. And what I like to do is really break it down into small steps because it's daunting to see, I got to save this money, but let's look at step by step, day by day. And all Ethan's
Hmm.
doing is going on the app for about 3 to 5 minutes every day.
Hmm.
He kind of gets his marching orders that he sets for himself, and then he reports back to me, and we can kind of build this together. So, um,
Hmm.
what do you see as the first step? And Joel, can you see his first step?
So early draft of some new weekly reports in front of the team. It's really gathering that feedback that I think is super important because, no person is an island. We all definitely work with teams, especially when you're thinking of process improvements. You have different people in different points of the process. So gathering early feedback saying, hey guys, I know we do this way. Here's what I'm proposing. Here's what's going to change based on that. What do you guys think? What are the gaps you're seeing? And does this make sense, right? You kind of have to get some buy-in because otherwise, if you're just trying to really bulldoze it through, it might not work. Getting early feedback, getting early buy-in, I think is super important. So good first step, I think.
And you'll see, we'll do. I think the first time in Impro history, we'll do a live streaming
Yes, I'm super
message
excited for this.
send.
Yes.
Let's hope the whole app doesn't explode on us here. But Ethan is on the line. So Ethan, I'm going to send this message. We did quasi rehearse, so he's aware that I'm sending a message. He's not,
Yes.
getting a drink or something right now. But that's a first step. So let's get a full view. I want to know what your
Yeah.
team looks like. So if we have the whole process, we can look at this and see what's happening. So I'm going to send this message, and if Ethan is there, he can respond. But I'm
Yeah,
really
for
asking,
sure.
like, what's your bigger challenge? Is it mapping this out, or there could be barriers in getting feedback, right, Joel? Do you ask
Yeah.
feedback in
Mhm.
one-to-one meetings? Do you send out a survey? Do you have
Exactly.
a weekly call? So there's ways to do this. Some are better than others. We can practice that and game plan as well. And Ethan responded, mapping out the process.
Yes. Which I definitely echo. I feel like that would be the hardest thing for me as well. I'm good at talking to people, but it's just structurally mapping it out, seeing how it's going to look, I think is the big thing. But again, he's got you, Jordan, in his corner, so I think it's a good way to start for sure.
Um, so I'm going to type here. So let's visualize the step, look at your team
Hmm.
from above, and let's look at some resources as well. So I'm just going to share one
Hmm.
link here. So check out this link with 8 tips on how to visualize and implement. And I'll put this here, and I'll tell you
Yeah.
what, Joel, I will also share this in the chat. So anyone else that is looking to improve the processes, I'll share this. And often we have good resources. I would tell Ethan
Hmm.
as well, you can skip the first third of this. I would just go to the 8 steps. The first one will give you some good structure. on how to
Mm-hmm.
do this. So I might even say here, feel free to skip the software kind of
Yeah.
advice near the
Yeah.
top and scroll to the tips. Okay. So I'll
Perfect.
send that to Ethan, and that's a way he can kind of look at this and jump into to this. And I always want to know, and I could send more messages, but I'll save everyone on the line from that. But
Yeah.
where do you see the gap? So here's 8 different processes, 8 different ways to look at your team. Where is the gap? Where do you see is the problem? So it's getting him
Mm-hmm.
thinking about this, and then we can build a game plan together. And on the path to reaching the goal of 8,500 saved. And when he sets this up, we've different options. You can talk to your strategist. I'll pass back to Joel in a second here, but your strategist can work with you to achieve this goal, and you'll have the option even to share this with your organization as an option as something achieved. And don't worry if it's again flexible, as we said. This is something we're working on to just get some value, show your value, but also you're not going to be held to every dollar and cent, just kind of the broad sketch here. So, Joel, if you're ready, I'll stop sharing my screen. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. I did want to, since we're sharing resources, I did want to share one last thing too. It comes off, I don't know if you watch the Stutz documentary, Jonah Hill, his psychiatrist, but he breaks down 3 different types of disciplines, which I thought was super insightful for me. And we definitely help you kind of really hone in on the different types of discipline. But that last one, expansive discipline, the discipline to consistently move beyond what's comfortable in order to create growth, I think really hits home on what projects is, right? So taking the next step to say, my regular job is this, but I want to take the next step to really, again, move up, kind of add value, and really show how we can make this system, this team, this company a lot better. And again, show value in terms of you as an employee, but also, again, where you are in the industry and also your entire life and goal trajectory. So super important. I think we all have to take steps in order to take that initiative. But Jordan, thank you so much taking us through that. You were actually right on time. So we
Mm,
got that in 22 minutes, which I'm super impressed with. It's a lot of information. Again, we're recording the session so we can always you can always recap that at your leisure, or if you're just watching from home, we really thank you. So what we're going to do is I wanted to add one little thing about our projects tool, and that's something we really want to give you guys as a gift for taking that first step and actually thinking about projects and opening projects with your performance strategist. So if you do engage with the worksheet that we're going to send after this webinar, we're going to go ahead and endorse a project planning skill on your LinkedIn page, if that's okay with you. So it's just a great way that aside from the internal achievements that we give our participants, which are super valuable, tracks your development, this is something that, is public facing, can show that you actually are moving towards more skill-based applications, using tools to work smart, and again, have an endorsement from your performance coach. So again, if you do hand in that worksheet, we'll connect to you and then we'll endorse that skill for you on LinkedIn. So please, 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 we'll send that over with our email that also, again, will house the recording. So look out for that. And okay, so now we want to kind of transition to hear what you guys are thinking. So we'll go into our Q&A. If you guys have a question, raise your hand, throw them into the chat. I'm just going to go into the chat right now to see if there were any comments. So first of all, a lot of comments on halftime show and 49ers. I'll have seen that. Yes, Carrie saying, can I just vote for Taylor? I don't know anything about playing. You can. I am as well. Stephanie, thanks for throwing that case study. So that's actually a great example of how to monetize a process. That was our earlier project session where Ofer went through how increased meeting efficiency does translate to actual cost savings. So if you want to take a look at that, it's a great example. Again, if you need the recording of our first session, email me, email our team, and we can send that to you as well. We have someone asking, does applying for a government grant count as an increased revenue project? Because until we get the grant, we won't make revenue. I think it is, right? So it is about, because you're not going to get the immediate impact of the initiative, right? It's going to be something that you build out and then the impact comes. what we try to do is give an estimation of what that would look like, right? So you saw how Jordan worked with Ethan to ask how many team members, how many hours a week. Let's try to take those 2 points and those two variables and come up with a number that makes sense. Again, ballpark, right? So I would say absolutely, it does count as a project, right? You're trying to get to add value to the company. You're trying to increase revenue by getting this grant. I would actually be curious to see, what do you do with the grant, right? Are you putting it into other projects, other initiative? Is it going to go, maybe that grant goes to infuse your sales team, so it's increasing revenue through that. So I would say absolutely 100% that is a project. And again, maybe after the grant comes through, you can evaluate what was the actual value that you got from that, right? So I would say 100% if you have any other projects like that. For sure. And again, talk to your performance strategist, right? They definitely have a great insight into what that project might look like, what the monetary value behind it might look like, and again, helping you progress towards that goal. Jordan, anything on that?
Well, I think what you said, they're compounding revenue, right? So it's you're
Yes,
saving the 30,
exactly.
you're putting
Yes.
it elsewhere, you're building. So we could track this in many ways. And I know we're going to share a link in a second, Joel, with
Mhm.
our man behind the scenes, Akarsh. We'll share that in a second. But Zayman asked here as well, how many goals, KPIs is ideal to track?
Mm.
And I would say look at what is your immediate focus, and you can work with your strategist on that. But you could do 2 or 3, Zayman, but I think once you start going beyond, it becomes harder to track through our app. So I would really focus on what's in front of you and where you feel those pain points, because I think that's where you can get the most value through these sessions.
Absolutely. And the other thing too is you can have a couple of KPIs that span different times, right? So you can have something that's a year KPI, and then you can have different projects that work towards that overarching KPI. So you can model it in different ways depending on how you work and what you're ultimately trying to achieve, right? For me, it might be, hey, I have a quarter KPI I want to hit, and I have a year KPI I want to hit. So let's start tracking those two and let's see what projects are going to contribute towards that, right? Maybe I have 2 or 3 for the quarter. Maybe I have 5 or 6 for the year, right? Again, plus or minus, depending on how ambitious and how many you have on the go. But it's really, again, a sandbox environment that you can really work with your performance strategist to customize and make it your own. So I would say talk to your performance strategist, think about, hey, I got a couple of ideas. What makes sense? What are maybe a couple of quick wins where I can learn the process of creating a project and then get into the deeper ones that might be, again, year-long KPIs you're trying to achieve. Okay, so well, I don't think we have any other questions, but again, if you guys have any questions that you think of afterwards, again, feel free to email us. We can always connect you with your performance strategist, or we're definitely happy to answer any questions. I do want to wrap up again with the last slide, which is, again, you guys have the ability to review impro.ai on Capterra. You will automatically receive a gift card, so if you want to scan that QR code, by all means do that. And as I said before, we are going to be sending you a recording of this webinar. So whether you had to leave early or whether you're watching from home, thank you so much. But you will receive that if you did register. If you didn't, if you heard it from a friend, again, just email us. We can send you that link for sure. Again, we're going to send you a workbook that's going to be a summary of what we talked about today. And it's going to include that type form to get started on projects, right? This is a great way to really jump into projects, get started thinking of what kind of KPIs, buckets, initiatives you want to take on. And again, if you do that, we will endorse you on LinkedIn for that project planning skill. And again, we're going to have this series going throughout the year. If you have any topics, any ideas, anything you'd like to see the team present to you, thought leadership, tools and tips, methodology, whatever that might be, shoot us an email. We're more than happy to create a webinar specific to that and make sure that you guys are getting as much value as you can from Impro. So without further ado, Jordan, anything else from your end to wrap up today's session?
Yeah, I know we'll send an email, but Akarsh did put a link there. About
Mhm.
5-minute type form survey. I know we do quite a few type forms here, but that will help
Yes.
ask some simple questions to get you launched on this project session with your strategist. So if you want that on ramp to work on a goal or a target that you have, feel free to click the link there in the chat. It's about 5 minutes. And even if you're not totally sure, we can help clarify. But Joel, I think that's good. We're exactly at the 30 minutes. So I think we can wrap here.
I'm so proud of our 22x8 skills, but I want to thank you guys again one last time. Thank you for joining. Take a look out for that email. Take a look out for future Impro Talk webinars, and we'll catch you next time. Thank you, guys.